We've all seen commercials on TV or the internet. While most commercials are relatively normal and some may be a little weird and wacky, we would still consider them normal commercials. But have you ever seen strange or even disturbing commercials? Since this commercial not only has a jump scare, which probably just scared most of you, but is also in Japanese, you probably have a lot of question marks in your head right now. First things first, what the hell is being advertised? The answer is tires. If you look closely, you'll see that there are Japanese characters in two places in the commercial. The first one says something like, "Snowy roads are scary." Shortly after that, the laptop says, "Have you put on winter tires?" And at the bottom right of the laptop and at the end of the commercial, we see the Japanese company Autoway, which sells tires and rims in its online shop at autoway.jp. And although the commercial dates from the early 2010s, the website still exists and appears to be running a successful business. However, I can't say for sure whether the ad was just as successful and why they decided on such an unconventional ad. The only thing this and all the other commercials in this video have in common is that they stick in your mind for at least a while, even if it's not for a positive reason. How on earth does this help someone sell tires? Never jumped so high in my life, Jesus. This 40-second commercial for snow tires was scarier than all the shitty horror movies that have come out in the last 5 years. Well, we see a baby doll and a PlayStation 3 sitting opposite each other in an empty white room. When the doll wakes up after a few seconds and opens its eyes, it seems to make various noises and feel things. To be honest, I'm speechless myself and I find this whole commercial just disturbing. In 2025, it's safe to say that the PlayStation 3, with 87 million units sold, is one of the most successful consoles ever. Whether it really needed this commercial is questionable, especially since this is the first time I've ever seen it. However, it must be said that the pop culture surrounding video games, movies and TV series had a very dark, robust and aggressive look at the end of the 2000s. Personally, I assume that they tried to portray the PlayStation 3 in a very mysterious and feared light, as if the console radiated a powerful aura. A powerful aura that drives creepy baby dolls to unnatural reactions. This relatively short commercial, which is again Japanese, basically promotes a men's entertainment magazine. To understand exactly what is happening here, I need to introduce you to the Rokurokubi. A Rokurokubi is a supernatural being in Japanese folklore. It is said that these beings mingle with humans during the day, and at night, when the body rests, the head takes on a life of its own. For this reason, the neck stretches supernaturally far and wanders around, licking oil from lamps or sucking blood and thus the life energy from humans. The background to the belief in Rokurokubi is the phenomenon of sleepwalking. People who woke up during sleepwalking as if in a trance and performed everyday activities were therefore labeled by others as possessed or as supernatural beings in disguise. And it is precisely such a creature that is depicted in this Japanese commercial. We see the creature holding the magazine in front of its body and then reading it. According to some YouTube comments, the creature says something like, "Young girls these days have beautiful bodies," and "Men's Entertainment Magazine, released every other Wednesday." From another comment, I was able to figure out that this commercial is promoting this magazine. Well, it's obviously a men's entertainment magazine, it seems. But to be completely honest, I can't make sense of the connection between the magazine and such a creature, or rather the entire commercial. To me, this commercial resembles a scene from a horror movie, or rather a video game, and I find it rather incomprehensible, frightening, and disturbing. Especially with the sound effects and the black and white aesthetics of the commercial. The comments on YouTube reflect exactly the same opinion. This made The Ring look like a bedtime story for children. I just entered the dark side of YouTube.
There's good reason for my glistening skin. I eat little baby's ice cream. It keeps me young. It keeps me light on my feet. When you eat little baby's ice cream, you'll wink and nod and hug and high-five each other with great enthusiasm. Little baby's ice cream. Ice cream is a feeling.
Now we have what is probably one of the most famous commercials, which most of you have probably seen on YouTube at some point. With 22 million views on the original YouTube video alone, it also has the most views in today's video. Basically, we see a man who is covered in ice cream, or almost consists of ice cream. He uses a spoon to scoop ice cream off his head, which he then eats. Throughout the video, he stares into the camera, or rather, he stares almost into our souls without blinking once. In the voiceover, we hear him talking in an almost possessed voice about how this ice cream gives his life more meaning and joy and how good little baby's ice cream is supposed to be.
It keeps me young. It keeps me light on my feet.
Meanwhile, music from a wind-up music box can be heard in the background. And while all of this is already disturbing and weird enough, his facial expression also changes over the course of the video from a monotone expression at the beginning to a disturbing and almost psychopathic grin at the end. And if you think this is just a crazy joke or publicity stunt, I'm sorry to disappoint you. The company Little Baby's Ice Cream really did exist, and they actually sold ice cream and even ran restaurants under the same name in the US. To make matters worse, this wasn't their only disturbing commercial. In order to not go beyond the scope of this video, I won't go into detail about the rest of the commercials, but believe me, they are just as disturbing. Perhaps it comes as no surprise to anyone that Little Baby's Ice Cream has closed permanently in 2019. And if I'm being completely honest, maybe it's for the best. I like how the actor either looks like he's holding back 20 minutes of laughter, or that his family is being held hostage just off screen. Ice cream is a feeling, and that feeling is fear.
I might just chill tonight.
Puppy monkey baby. 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 Puppy monkey baby.
Where do I start? Basically, it's probably the least scary commercial in this video, but by far the most confusing and fever dream-like one in this video. In this commercial, the puppy monkey baby advertises the popular soft drink Mountain Dew. With the legs and diaper of a human baby, the upper body of a monkey, the face of a puppy, and a male voice that repeatedly says puppy monkey baby. It randomly enters a room and distributes freshly cooled Mountain Dews. Well, what makes this commercial creepy to me is obviously the puppy monkey baby. Without context, a strange hybrid creature enters a room and behaves completely randomly. It jumps on the table, hands out drinks, knocks over the bowl of popcorn, licks the man's face, has a baby rattle in its hand, and finally starts dancing. Someone in the marketing department must have come up with this. In fact, someone thought this would be the perfect commercial for a drink to air during the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, an event that more than 100 million people watch live every year. I remember the day. It was the Super Bowl. Panther vs Broncos. I sitting down, enjoying a burger, chips and a Dr. Pepper. Then this commercial came on and I was so perplexed on what happened. I asked my dad if he put drugs in my food or was that just a figment of my imagination. The scariest part of this is that they even built a door in the wall for it, suggesting they get multiple visits from it. Even the music has a creepy vibe to it. That music sounds like ritual sacrifice music. This thing lures people with Mountain Dew, a well-liked soda, and then murders them with his own mutant unexplainable creatures. Puppy Monkey Baby sounds like a name of a creepypasta story.
Listen to Remco's Baby Laugh a Lot. You're listening to Baby Laugh a Lot. She's the funniest doll you've ever seen. Just push the button and she starts to giggle. Get Baby Laugh a Lot by Remco.
This commercial dates back to 1971 and obviously promotes a laughing doll for children. Because yes, in the 70s there weren't nearly as many toys as there are today. In addition, dolls were simply more popular than they are today and were considered much more normal. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the inspiration for the later film Child's Play. And, of course, in 2025 we are influenced by horror movies, fictional stories, and alleged ghosts or demons which sometimes stand out because such dolls are possessed by them. But even if you leave fictional horror aside, a human-looking doll that laughs hysterically at the push of a button still makes me feel really uncomfortable. Unfortunately, the commercial doesn't make it any better, with quick cuts to close-ups of girls turning around in fright after hearing the laughter. And even though they start laughing a short time later, I find the entire presentation and the girls' facial expressions before they laugh completely creepy. When you add in the slow zoom on the doll as it rocks back and forth, generally has a very exaggerated facial expression and, last but not least, laughs hysterically, the whole commercial gives the impression that it could be the opening scene of a horror movie. And I'm not the only one with this impression, because under a Reddit post discussing the commercial, people seem to share the same opinion. I don't know how this commercial sold one single doll. I remember being scared to death of this in 1971 when I was 6 years old. The kids are just as creepy as the doll in this. So, these things actually had a tiny record player inside of them, so when the battery was low, the record would spin slower and lower the pitch. When it's low on batteries, it sounds like it's an old man laughing. The scene took place in a bar in London. As various people washed their hands in the bathroom at different times, the mirrors suddenly shattered, revealing a bloody doll's head in the middle. At the end, the screen goes black and the text "What impact could a drink have on your night out?" appears. This is followed by the slogan "Don't drink and drive." Well, this is the British advertising campaign Think, which raises awareness of road safety. Among other things, it warns that you should not drive after drinking alcohol. And while this whole campaign, at its core, carries a very good and important message, I don't think I need to mention that the execution could actually be completely disastrous. Not only is it perhaps not such a smart idea to smash a glass mirror in front of a person's face, which could cause glass shards to fly into their face, but one of the people could also have a heart condition, which could have made such a sudden and shocking scare much worse. But why did I just say that the execution could be disastrous, and not that it is disastrous? A video usually has 24, 30 or 60 frames or images per second. If you watch the video frame by frame, you can see that with every scare, there's a cut in the video before the doll's head appears. However, the campaign suggests that it was a smooth sequence. For example, you see the first man bending down to wash his hands, and in the next frame he's suddenly in a frightened posture, which is actually impossible because humans cannot move that quickly in a fraction of a second. With the other man, the same thing was covered up with different camera angles, and you don't see the glass flying around. Nevertheless, I can't say with 100% certainty whether they staged a campaign with actors or whether it's actually real and they just cut out a few seconds to make the campaign look smoother. But assuming it is real, something like this is reprehensible on every level and simply conveys the wrong message. I am now afraid to go in public bathrooms. That's all this did for me. What the hell? I know it's a PSA and shit, but you don't need to traumatize someone into not drunk driving. You guys could give people heart attacks.
New, the double croissant-wich. Egg and meat and cheese and meat and cheese. That's right. Wake up with the king.
At first glance, you might say that this is still a relatively normal and harmless commercial. A man wakes up in his bed and next to him sits the Burger King mascot ready with a burger. But let's take a closer look at the king. He is wearing a typical royal robe with a huge grinning mask for a head and a crown. His face is not shrill and lively, with different emotions or facial features, but completely rigid and somewhat exaggerated, almost soulless. At the beginning of the commercial, he just sits there and stares at the man for several seconds and without any clear intentions. Only later does he take out the plate with the burger. And this commercial with the king or mascot is not an isolated case. In fact, Burger King made many similar commercials in the 2000s. In another commercial, the king is working on the scaffolding of a high-rise building hundreds of meters or feet above the ground. He then slowly peeks around the corner with his rigid mask. At the end of the commercial, the king pushes the worker for his amusement, who starts to sway and almost falls. In other videos, the king does similar strange things. Personally, I find his behavior anything but normal, and the king's rigid mask is just creepy and his gaze absolutely disturbing. I don't know how you feel about it, or maybe I'm exaggerating with the following statement, but his behavior reminds me a bit of a mentally ill person who has escaped from the asylum and is acting erratically. I can't explain it in any other way. Do these commercials make me want to go to Burger King? Not really. That's supposed to make me want a burger? That scares the shit out of me. The Burger King tried to push the guy off the fucking skyscraper at the end. Guy's reaction, oh you. The king looks like he's going to steal your soul.
I'm not a friend of the cheerleader of the non-coming for if I smell it, the 16 smoking. Because I started smoking when I was a teenager.
You can quit. For free help, visit cdc.gov/tips.
This time, we have a commercial that is a little different from the others in this video, because this commercial reflects reality for the first time. The American organization CDC uses commercials to raise awareness of diseases and generally raise awareness of what can happen if, for example, you start smoking at a young age. In this case, we have Terry, who started smoking in high school because she wanted to be cool in front of her friends. Being cool turned into addiction, and later as an adult, she had to learn that it had given her cancer. Compared to her younger self, she's actually unrecognizable. She eventually died at the age of 53. In an even older video, we can see Terry preparing for her day. It becomes very obvious how much cancer affects her everyday life and how difficult it must have been for her to live like that at the time. But Terry is just one person among many. The CDC has many other commercials with similar stories. And when you consider that children and adults alike could be going about their normal daily lives and then suddenly see something like this on TV or the internet, it is unsurprisingly incredibly daunting and disturbing. It is one of the few commercials that get its message right from start to finish. See, now this is the type of ads that we need to be showing to teens, not the stupid meme crap we see now. After I quit a year ago, I began seeing this commercial on TV, and any cravings I had are permanently gone. Thank you.
Schaltet ab! Schaltet ab! Schaltet ab! 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 Schaltet ab! Jetzt!
Okay. I know full well that Bernd The Bread shouldn't really be in a video like this, and while it's not technically a commercial, please let me continue. Most Germans should be familiar with Bernd The Bread, but for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Bernd The Bread ran on a continuous loop at night on the German children's TV channel Kika from 9 PM to 6 AM. But while Kika, as a children's channel, always showed cheerful series and films, Bernd The Bread was a little different. Bernd can be described as a depressed piece of bread with a rough voice who never really seems happy. His character can be compared a little to Squidward from SpongeBob. Accordingly, in the various episodes that always ran in a loop at night, Bernd tried to scare viewers away so that they would turn off the TV. But as we have just seen, Bernd is incredibly frightening. I myself had experienced nights where I fell asleep watching Kika and woke up in the middle of the night because Bernd was yelling at me. In addition, he always stays in a white sterile room, almost like an institution for mentally ill people, and often behaves like one himself. Now, imagine yourself waking up at night in your dark room with Bernd yelling at you and talking to you. It's an understatement to say that it feels like a frightening fever dream. Bernd is such an intense fever dream that two bored guys made a dedicated 19-minute video about him, titled "Bernd The Bread is such a fever dream." Alongside Deadpool and Dora the Explorer, Bernd the Bread is probably the only fictional character who breaks the fourth wall so often and interacts directly with the audience, which is something we rarely see in TV series and films. The only difference is that Bernd wants to bore you, scare you off, or get rid of you. Dude, imagine you're half asleep, you open your eyes and see that. I would cry. I watched that episode when I was 4 or 5 years old. Afterwards, I ran to my mom crying.